Well, thanks for joining us. I'm very excited about this session today. And some of you obviously been on webinars with us in the past. We'll be talking about Worksmart, but we've got something very new for you today. And I'd like to just start off by going through what we're going to cover this morning. First of all, we're going to talk about employee engagement. And the reason we want to talk about engagement is that according to Gallup's latest global employee engagement report, employee engagement globally is at the lowest level it's been in many years. It's interesting because when I was looking at the data, I noticed that actually engagement went up during COVID. And then since then, it's dropped off again down to lower than where it was before COVID. There's obviously something going on. And we need to actually look at how Everything DiSC and the tools that we now have with Everything DiSC can help to address that challenge and increase employee engagement. Then we're going to introduce some simple, scalable solutions for increasing engagement and tools that Wiley have come up with that I think you'll find are very relevant, very practical, and able to do something about that. Okay, and so we will also talk about how this has been impacting on the many clients that are now currently using Worksmart. Okay, all right, so let's look at employee engagement. 61% of people surveyed said they view their job as just a paycheck. They're coming to work to get a paycheck. That's not very good, is it? That doesn't sound like what you would call an engaged workforce, all right? In addition to that, in that global engagement survey, they identified that 17% of all employees globally are actively disengaged. They're not only switched off, they're actually working against the organization and possibly trying to get people who are still engaged somewhat to become disengaged. So they got some company. The other bit of data that was more concerning, I think, was that 51% of the employees surveyed said they were seeking a new job, which obviously doesn't bode well for employee turnover in the future. Okay, so let's look at some basics here. Engagement suffers when people lack the tools to be able to connect with each other. All right, so today's workplace requires stronger people skills for people being skilled at interacting with each other and communicating with each other and collaborating with each other. But the traditional training that we've been doing in organizations can't keep pace with the rate of change, all right? So organizations are cutting resources and still expecting productivity gains, right? The need for more with less, right? And there's more than 40% of employees cite the lack of time as the number one barrier to learning and development. And so another statistic that came out of the research was that only 30% of the training content actually gets applied on the job. So the traditional way of providing training, putting people in workshops and something maybe half a day, etc., isn't working, right? And so we need people at all levels to be able to contribute to increasing stronger people skills, all right? It's not just managers and leaders who need those skills, it's individual contributors as well, team members, looking for practical solutions where they can help build a strong people skills and more collaboration. And we need to provide that training quickly and in the moment. And so obviously Everything DiSC is a foundation for that. Our assessment-based learning solution, the workplace profile, all right, which is the basic profile that anyone who's taking a DiSC profile should always do first, provides people with an understanding of themselves and the people they're working with and how to communicate and relate to each other more effectively. So it empowers individuals at the front line to help work together better with their colleagues, all right? And so now that Everything DiSC profile is powered by Catalyst. We've had Catalyst since 2020. In fact, Wiley was working on the development of Catalyst, which is an online portal where people go in to see their profile, and they can see a lot of other stuff, as we'll see when we get into that. Early 2020, the pandemic hit, and people were sent home from work. And so the need for something online became even more important. And so May of 2020, Catalyst was first launched. So we've had it for 6 years now, and it's improved a lot in that time, as we'll see as we go through this too. Okay. So what have we got in Catalyst? First of all, the workplace profile provides you with your profile online, and there's a whole lot of information. Everything that's in the workplace profile that you could print out as a PDF file is online in the Catalyst platform. All the sections in there. All right. In addition to that, Catalyst provides your colleagues section. This is where anyone who's in the same organization as you, and your organization name has to be entered into Catalyst along with your profile, is available for you to see in the Your Colleagues section, as you can see on the graphic there. It's showing a group of people, and those are people in my work group, in my organization. And I can click on any of those people, and it will come up with a comparison between myself and that person. Right? It doesn't come up with their workplace profile. It comes up with a comparison between the two of us, how we're similar, how we're different, and how we can possibly work together more effectively. All right. And so that was something that was really brand new when Catalyst started. Since then, we've added your groups to Catalyst. And anyone who's got a Catalyst profile can create a group with other people in their organization. So if you've got a group of people that you work closely with and you want to just see them as a group, you can create your own group, and you can share that group with the other members of the group that you created. And more recently, we got this application, which is Get Advice. And so this is where any individual who has a workplace profile on Catalyst can get advice about how to relate to anyone else who's in their work group. All right, they can click on Get Advice, ask them what they want to get advice about, and they can go in and get some tips on how to work more effectively with that person or solve a particular problem, etc. Okay, so we're going to then look at Worksmart and how we build critical interpersonal skills and apply them to the real flow of work. There are two learning paths available. The first one, which has been out for just over a year, I believe, is the Worksmart management modules. Now, these are trainer-led modules. They're designed to be run in less than an hour, but they are a facilitated session, all right, where a facilitator guides a group of managers through up to 5 modules. They can do one or they can do all 5 over a period of time and learn how to apply these people skills. We'll come to what the skills are in just a moment. But what's brand new, which has only just been released in the last week or so, are the self-guided modules. We've had a lot of feedback over the last 12 months or so since Worksmart was released from clients who want, what about the people who are not managers who could use these skills as well? All right, and so now we finally have that. And these are 20-minute modules, self-learning, self-study, do it on your own. And from that 20-minute session, you still build an action plan for applying that particular skill to a particular colleague, all right? And save your action plans in Catalyst, okay? As the managers can with the management modules, all right? So let's look at the 5 topics or the 5 skills. First of all, there's giving constructive feedback. That's obviously a skill that a lot of people could do with more of, right? How do we give feedback in a way that it's received as being constructive and the response is positive and constructive? All right. The second skill is managing conflict. Now, again, when we think about individuals, team members, as opposed to team leaders using these skills or learning these skills, obviously a team member would maybe often have the need to provide some feedback to another team member, or some conflict has arisen between themselves and one other team member. How do I manage that? Well, now they've got a resource they can go to sit down for 20 minutes and learn more can actually come up with an action plan on how I'm going to manage conflict with that person. Okay. And so the others, empowering others, obviously aimed initially at the managers, but there's no reason why a team member couldn't see that as an opportunity to, how do I get this other person to take on a responsibility for something that I think it would be helpful if they were to do it. And then we've got motivating others. Obviously, motivation is something that anyone could do with anyone. And then lastly, navigating change. We've got a change coming up, or I've got a change idea that I want to introduce. Let me bounce it off someone. How do I do that effectively? Okay, so they're the 5 skills, and we are going to transition into looking at one of those skills. This is my Catalyst homepage. And as you can see, I have an SI, and we have a new menu on the left-hand side here. It hasn't been in Catalyst very long, but we can also move that over to give me a little bit more room. And the first thing that anyone would do when they've taken their profile on Catalyst would be to come in here, and they can click on Learn About Your Style. And that will take them straight into their workplace profile to learn about their style and all the other applications and sections within the workplace profile. Okay. Then below that, we have tools from DiSC. And here's where we can see Discover Worksmart. We also have Compare to a Colleague. So this is where anyone can just click on that and go into the people that are in their group. Or they can build a group and then share it with others. Or they can get advice. So these are the tools that are available to anyone who has a Catalyst profile. You have to actually purchase the Worksmart module. The others, there are no charges for. But there are 5 training modules for the 20 EPIC credits that you would pay to get into Worksmart. Okay. Also, before we get off of that and get into Worksmart, if I scroll down, if you're not aware, there are 2 other profiles in Catalyst. You can add a management profile, and you can also add the Agile EQ profile. Learn how to develop your emotional intelligence, Everything DiSC Agile EQ. All right. And I'm not going into that today, but just one thing I'd like to say about it while I'm here is that unlike other emotional intelligence assessments, the Agile EQ profile is not measuring how high or low you are on emotional intelligence. It's identifying what your emotional intelligence strengths are and areas where you could possibly add some additional strengths to increase your emotional intelligence. So there's no high or low score on that one. Okay, so let's go back and we'll dive into Worksmart. Okay, so I'm going to go into my Worksmart profile, and remember that I'm an SI style. So when I get in here, we'll see that we've got 2 options now. We have the self-guided library and we have the trainer-led library. So if I wanted to take a group of managers through one of the Worksmart modules, I would click on trainer-led, go to that library. The purpose of this session is to have a look at the self-guided library. Also, in both self-guided and trainer-led, you have the opportunity to create action plans for a specific person, all right? And you can save those in Catalyst, and this is where you would go if you want to view all the action plans you've already done and saved in Catalyst. Or from here, you don't want to go into one of the learning modules, you want to actually create another action plan about a particular colleague, so you would click on Create a Plan, okay? And create another plan. And you can create as many plans as you like, and there's no charge for that. Just the original 20 credits to get into the 5 modules in Worksmart. So let's go into the self-guided library, and here we have the 5 modules. Right, so they're in a slightly different order to what I said earlier. Typically, we start with giving constructive feedback, and that's the one I want to look at today. But all 5 modules are here. And I mentioned the 20 EPIC credits to get access to Worksmart. That gets you access to both the trainer-led modules designed for managers or leaders, and the 5 self-guided modules in the self-guided library. There's no additional charge for the self-guided library, okay? It's just 20 EPIC credits for both. So let's dive into giving constructive feedback. Now, this whole training session is in Catalyst, all right? So we're in Catalyst, and here we are. We're going to start off with giving constructive feedback. And so welcome to this course. What you're going to do is discover the 4 elements that go into good feedback, explore practical tactics, and develop feedback for a specific issue where you can deliver this to a teammate. So we've got 30 slides, as you can see down the bottom there, but they're not in PowerPoint, they're in here. Introduction and your feedback superpower. Let's start with, of course, by breaking down the elements of good feedback. And you also learn about your feedback superpower, the element you're probably already pretty good at. Let's look at more about that. There's an introductory video here. It runs for about 5 minutes, which I think is perhaps a little bit long for today. There is a second video that I'd like to show you, but every one of these 5 self-paced learning modules has 2 videos. And all of the videos are done by Dr. Mark Scullard, who's the research director. He designs these modules, etc. And each of the videos, when I show you my video, I'm going to show you the second one a bit later on, it's aimed at me as an S-style person. All right. So each video has 4 versions of it for each of the 4 primary styles. Okay. So I'll skip on to, let's take another look at the 4 elements of constructive feedback, and another look being that Mark took us through those in that video. So one of the elements of constructive feedback is being direct. And of course, the D style doesn't have any challenges with that typically. And sometimes we would like them to be maybe a bit less direct if they're coming across as a bit blunt, right? But that's a strength, that's their superpower. The I style superpower is encouraging. That makes sense. The I style likes to make sure the person knows that you value their contribution, you believe in them, and so on, okay? And the S style, which is my style, and of course this is the one that this module is going to be focused on, is receptive, being receptive, encouraging two-way dialogue, remaining open-minded, listening to the other person's perspective, etc. And then, of course, the C style, their superpower is being objective, giving objective feedback, sticking to the facts, and providing examples and details to support the feedback, etc. Okay, so how could any one of us improve our ability to give feedback? Well, we could improve by not getting stuck in our superpower. See, if I focus on just being receptive and listening to the other person's point of view, I may never get my message across. So I would need to learn to be more direct, and maybe to be encouraging, and maybe also to be more objective. Okay, so we're going to get an opportunity to see how we can do that. All right. So because I have an S style, I tend to focus on being receptive. All right, I've already sort of talked about that. So that's my superpower. I'm naturally interested in the feelings and perspectives of others. So I'm focused on creating a safe space for other people so they can share their perspective and so on. All right. However, what element will I develop in order to be more effective and give more effective feedback? Then this is the second video, and I'm going to share this one with you.
Or is a really powerful asset when you're giving feedback. But no matter how great you are at being receptive, is it enough? So think about those times where you're so focused on validating someone's perspective that you failed to really communicate your own. Or those times where you didn't speak up at all because you were afraid that things would get awkward or you might damage the relationship, when actually staying silent, that actually ended up causing more problems. What did the person need that you weren't giving them? Well, maybe what they needed was for you to just get things out in the open, explain the issue straightforwardly, no soft pedaling, no hedging, so that you could have an honest, real conversation about what to do. Being direct, that could have helped you get the ball rolling. Or maybe they didn't understand the problem you were describing and they needed clearer, concrete examples of what you wanted and what they were doing. Being objective, that could have helped you clarify expectations. Or what if they really needed to hear that, sure, there's a problem, but that you believe in their ability to solve it? Being encouraging, that could have given them the confidence to really tackle the issue. Being receptive, it's just one element of great feedback. In order to give feedback that actually yields results, in a lot of situations, to a lot of people, you need to learn about and embrace 3 other elements. 3 additional skills that you can use to tackle tough situations and come out with a win. You may already be using some of them, but today we're going to take a deeper dive into when and how they can help. Let's start now with just one.
Okay, so just a reminder that each of those videos is being personalized to the person whose profile they're in, the Catalyst profile that they're in. So I'm an S-style, so obviously it's telling me as an S-style what I need to work on to become more effective at giving feedback. Okay, so now what I need to do is identify one of the other three elements that I need to work on. I'm going to choose being direct. That's something that hasn't always come naturally to me. It doesn't come naturally to me now, to be honest, but I've learned how to do it better over the years, of course, and I've had to. But then now that I've chosen direct, let me go on to why should I bother to work on being more direct? Now it's giving me some reasons. What are some of the assumptions I might have about being direct? Now, again, this page is personalized to me as an SI style. All right. These are thoughts that may come up that would pop into my head that get in the road of me being direct. I've got to protect their feelings. It's better to deal with this on my own and rock the boat, etc. Okay. So what I need to do here is so which of those is one that often pops up in my head. Okay. And I would say for me, it's probably this one here. Better to deal with it on my own than rock the boat. It's just easier. I don't have to deal with it. All right. But then obviously not necessarily going to come up with the best outcome. So now I've got to rethink that assumption. You chose it's better to deal with this on my own rather than rock the boat. Okay. So this is now personalized again to the answer I just gave. Let's look at another way to think about this. Let's walk through a real life situation with someone you work with that you want to give feedback to. I would ask you to identify their DiSC style and describe the issue so we can show you how being direct or not impacts the situation. Okay. So now if I'm planning to give feedback to someone who is on my team, then I could just type their name in here. All right. And then their name would come up because they're in the Your Colleague section, and it would tell me what their DiSC style is. Or if it's not somebody who's in my work group, I can guess a colleague style. So I'm just going to do that rather than just bring up a specific person. So I'm going to choose fast-paced, questioning and skeptical, submit, and of course that's going to be a D style. So those two people reading questions are designed to identify the primary style of the person you want to give feedback to. Okay, so then we go in here, and now let's identify the issue. The colleague you chose, what's the behavior that needs to change? Okay, so I'm just going to add in here that they sometimes, and you'll note I'm not a very fast typist, sometimes talk over me. Next, how does feedback land when you're not direct? Now think about giving feedback on this issue you've identified to the deal style teammate. And if you're not direct, you increase the chance that they have the reaction shown on the cards below. Flip each one to learn why they react this way. They don't take the feedback seriously. Why? They lose respect if you don't show confidence. All right? They're self-assured and tend to respect people who are self-assured. So I need to be more self-assured. They seize on your hesitation. All right? They want to come out on top, and being outspoken and competitive, they could be more intent on winning the discussion than engaging with the message. Okay, so indirect feedback may give them an irresistible opening to push back. Okay, and then they put their own spin on the feedback. Okay, why? They want to maintain control. All right, so that's one of the primary needs of the D style is to maintain control. How do we deal with that? These are the reasons why they may push back. But when I'm direct, here's what happens. They take your feedback more seriously. It commands the attention of the D style, more likely to listen and take it seriously. Okay. And they also take you more seriously because by being upfront, you earn more respect with them. I'm not going to try with another person, but that's just a situation where, of course, I could then do this on a number of people if I wanted to. Or I could switch to a different module and say managing conflict and come up with an action plan there. Okay, so how to change? I've identified the behavior that I would like to see changed. How do I get that to change? Okay, let's build your comfort being direct. Being direct can transform the way your teammate responds to feedback. And when I recognize the value, it can be hard to change ingrained behaviors and develop new habits. So I need to choose a motto to remind myself to be direct and choose a tactic to make feedback more direct. So let's go to the next page, choose a motto, right? When taking on a new behavior, it's useful to have a simple phrase you can use, call it a motto or mantra, something you can repeat to yourself. So I thought that I came up earlier, it's better to deal with on my own rather than rock the boat. Based on this starting place, we give you some mottos to choose from on the next page. All right, so being direct shows respect is the one that leaps out at me, okay? In other words, when I'm direct with them, I'm showing respect, not trying to pull them down. So here's that motto again, and keep it somewhere I can refer to, and then choose a tactic. Refine my talking points ahead, plan ahead for challenges being direct, identify the consequences of avoiding feedback. I like the last one there. That's something that would make it very clear to me that there are some negative consequences of avoiding giving the feedback. Okay, so then before you can try out your tactic, take a look at these real world examples of the consequences of avoiding feedback. Flip each card to see what can go wrong when you don't speak up. Missed deadlines. If I don't say something about this, they're going to keep letting deadlines slip. Habitual errors, maybe. If I don't call attention to the flaws in this report, they'll never learn how to do it right. And failure to take initiative. They're never going to grow and learn if I don't point out where they need to step up. So this person is not going to learn that they tend to talk over me unless I point it out to them. So I need to do that, obviously. Okay. And so let's try step one. They sometimes talk over me. And so I've got to think about this person's. And I won't type in an answer here, but as you can imagine, it's pretty easy to come up with. How am I going to have a conversation with this person about that? Okay. And it's not going to let me go on. I'm going to have to put in something. I'll just do that. Okay, just to save a bit of time here. And they talk about what are the potential consequences for the rest of the team and the organization. And of course, there are consequences for everyone on the team when this person talks over them as well. Okay. And what are the potential consequences for me? Again, I'm going to come up with the consequences for me. And it gives me some examples. No, it doesn't. Oh, yes, extra work. Yeah, I could actually copy and paste one of those in. Okay. And so now I'm ready to be direct in the real world. My feedback superpower is I'm receptive. You want to be direct, and your tactic and notes. And I can save that as an action plan. Okay. And try again. All right. So let me just pause there. All right. So back to the home page. This is Worksmart. And again, to remind you, there are 5 trainer-led modules designed to be run in under an hour. And they're facilitated by someone who's taking managers through this. So you can do it in a classroom setting. You can do it virtually in a webinar type or online meeting, virtual meeting format. And each manager would have their own Worksmart profile up on their laptops, and they would be going through and developing their own action plans with the guidance of the facilitator. Okay. And then, of course, the self-guided library designed for individuals to go through this themselves. Now, those two could actually work in tandem. We've had someone say, well, what happens if a manager can't attend one of the sessions and they miss it because they were on some assignment or they were called away for something? And so they missed the group session when we ran them through giving constructive feedback. Well, you can give them the self-guided module for giving constructive feedback, and they can learn to do it on their own. It could also be used by you've taken managers through the facilitated sessions, and then you could give them the self-guided ones as reinforcement to further embed the learning in their skill set. So that's the latest and greatest from Wiley is in Catalyst. Everything is done in Catalyst for Worksmart, both self-guided and facilitated. All right, so have we got any questions? The 5 learning modules, which we went through, giving constructive feedback, managing conflict, dealing with change, empowering people, and motivating people. Okay. Now, in the management facilitated modules, it talks about empowering direct reports, motivating direct reports. But of course, in the self-guided ones, it's not assuming that the person is a manager. Question here, which report from the product list is Worksmart? It's in Catalyst. It's not in the product list. No, it's an application within Catalyst. So to get access to Worksmart, the person needs to have a Catalyst profile, which would be Workplace on Catalyst. Okay. If you just went, for example, somebody wanted to do the management profile and you wanted them to do it in Catalyst, you can issue them a link to take the management profile in Catalyst, but when they complete it, they will have both the management profile and a workplace profile in Catalyst, because Catalyst, the foundation for Catalyst is the workplace profile. Right? And then you can add the, for 20 credits, you can add the Worksmart modules. Do each of the 5 modules follow the same format? Yes. I'm not sure if they call it a superpower in each one. I can't recall that. But yes, they do identify one of the elements that comes most naturally to your style. And then there's 3 other, so every, that 4-quadrant model you saw on the screen with the 4 types of feedback, there's one of those models in each of the 5 modules. So when it comes to conflict, you've got what the D style approaching conflict, the I style, the S style, and the C style. And if we're going to be more effective at dealing with conflict, we need to learn to use other elements. Okay. So yes, same application for each of the 5. If you think about it, anyone on a team would be more effective in dealing with anything that comes up if they were skillful at using these 5 tools. Anyone who's got a management responsibility, you've got people reporting to them, would benefit very much from having these skills and developing these skills and get better and better and better at them. And so that's the beauty of the way it's designed, is that you can teach the skills through the sessions, but you also have the opportunity for them to develop action plans to put them into practice. And then they can come back into their Catalyst profile, into their Worksmart module, and they can do another action plan on a different employee or using a different skill. Globally, there's a huge increase in the number of Catalyst profiles as more and more organizations jump on board with it. It's just so much more, not only user-friendly to have your profile on Catalyst, but it's also increasing the likelihood that people will keep coming back to it. So keeping DiSC alive, Catalyst is a brilliant tool for that. And adding Worksmart makes it even more likely, because then people can go in and do another action plan. Oh, I've got an issue with this person. Let me look them up in your colleagues, and then let me come up with an action plan for how I can address this issue. Well, thank you very much for joining us today, and I hope this has been beneficial. And the email for support is support@integro.com.au. All right, by all means, contact someone on the team. Thanks a lot, everyone, and we'll see you again soon, hopefully.